Welcome to Community Chats, bringing you stories and insights from the heart of Community Living Toronto, a nonprofit organization that proudly supports people with intellectual disabilities and their families. We will focus on stories of belonging and inclusion and topics of interest from communities across Ontario and the world. From uplifting moments to breaking barriers, from innovative policies to ideas from leading thinkers, we continue to advocate for inclusive communities and support the rights and choices of people with an intellectual disability.
We are beginning the summer with our first episode of Community Living Chats. These podcasts are one of the ways Community Living Toronto wants to bring together our community. We want to share ideas and stories, learn about what works and what doesn't, and how we can do better. We're better together, and the more we learn together, the stronger we are. We each have a story, and today we meet Laura Parsonson and learn about her journey as a teacher, an advocate, a friend, and a mother. Laura is energetic, reflective, and insightful, and we talk about the past and what the future holds. At times, this conversation is emotional, and we touch on some difficult conversations that include mourning the loss of the perfect child, how well-intentioned comments from family and friends can cause unintended hurt, how to stay positive, the importance of kindness, as well as the importance of having an awesome and ordinary life. I love this conversation, and I hope you do as well.
Good to see everybody, and Laura, good to see you. I'm really looking forward to this chat. I know we've done a bit of a pre-chat, and I know it was we're in for a good conversation.
Thank you, Brad.
Wanted to start with learning a little bit more about you. Petronella talked a little bit about your long history with Community Living Toronto, but give us a sense of who you are and what you're all about.
Thanks, Brad. I have down here that Emily's dad and I are both career teachers. In terms of our family, Emily was a long waited for little bobbit. We were thrilled to have her, looking forward to having her. She was born with Down syndrome and quite a few other health problems. And that's how my original connection came to Community Living Toronto. In terms of our family, she was well accepted and we were well supported on a lot of levels. But probably the key thing is that nobody else in our peer group had a similar experience. We had nobody.
Right.
Everybody had great, big, fat, healthy, screaming babies that weren't at sick kids every day. I mean, the first thing I said to my daughter was, "You're beautiful," because by then I hadn't seen her for a day. They kept her away from me and
kept her. That was a challenging time for you. So you talked about being a teacher.
Yes.
And you're the member rep for Etobicoke. So what's your connection with Etobicoke? Where did you teach?
We live in Etobicoke, and Emily's dad taught for a long time at Smithfield Middle School. My Etobicoke teaching for 21 years was at Martin Grove Collegiate. So, I mean, we know the walk in terms of we both taught special ed kids forever. They're everywhere now. Thank God. They're in the schools. So that was,
that's neat. So I'm an Etobicoke person as well. I grew up in Rexdale. And at one of the events that we held, I think at Creative Village, Emily's dad was there, and he knew a bunch of the teachers that taught me when I was a student. So it was kind of cool. And I remember you once had said to me, you were a librarian, right? At some point you became? And you asked me if I knew Marna Yates. Do you remember that?
No,
So because apparently Marna went to Martin Grove and was an athlete, pretty well accomplished. And you told me that her picture was outside of your library.
That's true. You remind me of that. True. That's very true. 6 degrees of separation. In the end, we're all Florida.
Yeah. So a funny, interesting fact is her daughter, whose name is Amanda, is taking the SSW course at George Brown and volunteered. Her placement is with us. And she was at Creative Village and some other. So you're right. It is sort of 6 degrees in a small world. So you mentioned that Emily, when she was born, there were some complications and some challenges. Do you want to talk about what you experienced there?
Sure. so much of it was negative. I hate to dwell in the negative space, but
No,
I
but
was,
it's part of the story. It's part of
it
the
is.
story.
She was in the hospital for 11 days. She wasn't really healthy. And I was nuts. So I was asked by everybody, including the lady that emptied the garbage cans, how old I was. So there's just a nice level of guilt there all the time about having a baby when you're 31 with Down syndrome. But anyway, people who tried, really well-intentioned people, came into that hospital and kept telling me, don't worry, they come and they get them and they go away on a bus. And I said to her dad one day, what is it with the bus? Why does everybody keep talking about they take them away? They take them away on a bus. And it drove me nuts. And then there was the ever popular, they're all nice, they're all sweet, they're all, they love music, whatever. Anyway, so I just will have to tell you that I did say to her, first thing I said was, you're so pretty. Second thing I said was, we're going to spend a long time on University Avenue, girl, because my way of dealing with everything is to default to humor. Little did sweet little Emily know that would be true. And I guess it was because I was comparing her to everybody. All my friends had these great, big, healthy babies. I mean, I've way past the stage now where I want to push pregnant women under buses. But I had a time there where I looked at pregnant women smoking and drinking. And I think, I never took a Gravol and I was sick for 9 months. And this happened. So in terms of our experience compared to others, it was so different. And I was lonely. Her dad went back to work. And not that it was easy. It was no easier for him, but he had a distraction. I had this little dependent. She couldn't suck. She couldn't drink. She didn't gain weight. She never cried. You know what it's like to have a baby that doesn't cry? It's not a good sign. Anyway, so how did I connect with CLT is your next question, probably. I didn't know what to do because I was nuts. Like I was crying all the time. And I am eternally friggin' happy. I mean, it's my default position in life is that I wake up happy, pain-free and happy. That used to be true. Anyway, I just took out the phone book and I looked up
And
the
that's
R
how
word.
you mentioned pain-free and happy. You mentioned that and I'll let you tell this, but that you didn't experience a lot of pain when you were in the hospital.
No, I didn't. I have a 9-inch incision from my cesarean section. She was an emergency section after 27 hours of labor. And I never had a minute's worth of pain from that. And every doctor I saw kept saying, what do you mean you don't have pain? I don't know. I just don't feel anything. And my doctor told me, he said, you know what, you have a broken heart and your heart is, anyway, he said, what it is you're way more full and you become, every mother knows this. If you're out there, mothers, and I know you are so instantly connected to your little baby. Well, whoever they put in your arms. And I looked at mine and thought, she's gorgeous and I love her. And my heart swelled, but also my heart broke for her because people kept telling me what she was never going to do. She's never going to, she won't, she can't, she'll never. Oh my God, it was a lengthy list. And including what her personality was going to be like. When they told me she was going to be happy and cheerful, it annoyed me. I said to her dad, why do they think they can determine her personality on day 3? Do they do that with other parents? What the hell? I hope
What
she's a nasty little
what
thing.
what would you suggest to parents or friends of parents who were, because obviously people said the wrong thing, and I'm assuming that your friends and family weren't trying to intentionally hurt your feelings and say things that were obtuse, but they did. What would you recommend people? So what would have been helpful for you in going through that?
Well, that's interesting because sometimes it's not what they do say, it's the omission of what they don't say.
Right.
Every single person who sees a new baby starts to talk about who they look like. Nobody talked about her looks. Nobody, because it was the elephant in the room.
Right.
Nobody said she looks just like you. Nobody, not one. And that hurt me. I thought, then the other thing is I had a massive guilt complex about that because you end up mourning the loss of the perfect child. So and I'm very self-aware. I kept inside my head thinking, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? How can I deal with it? How can I deal with it? And when it occurred to me that I was mourning the loss of the perfect child, I thought, well, what did I want? And then I realized I wanted tall, and I'd been told for 2 weeks how short she was going to be. And just so you know, she's 4'11" and a half. I was told I wanted beautiful, and I knew she was because I kept looking at her every day. I kept thinking she's so pretty, but I also wanted athletic. and I wanted smart. It was really important to me that she was going to be an achiever and really, really smart. Now, when I had that awareness, I felt shallow. I felt awful, and I had nobody to talk to about that. So what could families do? Like, my family was so busy trying to be nice to us because they're lovely and kind, and they were, but they just couldn't relate. I mean, and because I wanted to protect them, I was putting on a brave face and pretending all the time. So I was in like crazy, especially with my mother and my sister. I just felt, oh, I have to just, you know, and my mother kept telling me I had a wellspring of resilience. And she's dead now, but God bless her. She gave me great advice. She said, people say things not from a place of malice. And so I have applied that rule over and over and over again for the last 40 years because they just say dumb things. They don't even know they're dumb. Yeah. My neighbor who said to me, a nice neighbor, 2 doors away, and Emily's about 2 weeks old. She looked down and she said, oh, they're really cute when they're 2. And I looked at her and I said, but she's going to turn 3, right? Because I thought, what the hell does that mean? You know, another thing people do, and this is family and friends. I am trying to get to your question, Brad.
No, it's fine.
Ask you all the time, people do. How old is she really?
Right.
Holy mother of God.
So she looks one age, but
yeah,
people understand that there's
I used to take a long time and say, well, if you mean relating to literacy, she reads at about a grade 2 level. If you mean sexually, she's been ready to date since she was 12. Whatever. If you mean, does she come on to men and, you know, cozy up to them and flirt with everybody, including every surgeon she's ever had? You know, I used to give a long-winded, sort of funny answer, I thought. I don't anymore.
That's a great way of looking at it, though, is that there's different disability affects different people differently, and it's not easy to say, well, what's the real age? That's a great answer.
And she is sexually, she is all that. But her dad always says to people, she's about 10, because he's not a talker like me. She's about 10. And I've heard him.
Just end the conversation, move on to something else.
He doesn't want to wallow there. So I tried that recently. Because as you know, Brad, I talk too much.
How did that go?
I tried to be nice, and I said, well, I guess you'd say she's about 10. And I thought, let's just move away from this so I don't come after you with the jug, you know. And you know what the person said to me? Oh, 10's the perfect age. They're not jaded. They're so nice at 10. And then I did a 180. And I looked back.
So it didn't help, eh? The 10-year. Okay.
No, I turned and I looked at her and I said, she's 40. She's been 10 for 30 years.
Yeah.
Think about it. You know, so it didn't work for me. You know, I don't know how I even answer those. But again, I don't think from a place of malice. I'm trying
no, that's a good point. People say silly things that are inconsiderate, but not always meaning to do so. No. They just land well, or they don't land well. You talked about you've been very involved with Community Living Toronto. You've been a volunteer, award-winning volunteer with the organization, and you know, a real backbone advocate. Well, in connected with our Etobicoke Community Council. How did you first get involved with Community Living Toronto? You talked about being in the hospital, not knowing a whole lot, wanting to learn, not knowing where to turn. So Emily's coming up to a milestone birthday, right? She's 40. Okay, so we're going back a number of decades. So hopefully things have improved. But what brought you to Community Living Toronto? How did you come across us?
When I looked in the phone book, and for those of you under 30, it was the way we used to connect to people. Anyway, I don't even know who my intake person was. I wish I remembered that person because I know they were kind to me. Somebody on intake. Okay, took a lot of information. Somebody connected me to Pilot Parents, which, as you know, is a group of parents who also have children who are developmentally delayed. And then I started going, actually, we both did. We went to some gatherings that they have where parents could connect. Shout out to the Bianis, the Reeds, the Zutatis, the Hill families. These are people that at the very beginning, we felt a kinship and a fellowship with that we did not have with our friends and our families.
And the idea with pilot parents is that like a pilot in a plane, like you're somebody's been is sort of been through this and they're helping. And Colleen posted in the chat that you were one of her pilot parents and they were blessed to have you.
Yes, I was, and I did that for many, many, many years. But it's different for different families, because some of them, like my daughter, are diagnosed instantly practically. And then others, it's an unraveling, a slow unraveling, milestones not met. And it's very difficult for those parents because they still had all their hopes and dreams flourishing. And as their children don't meet the milestones. So I piloted, I don't know how many, I had binders and binders and binders. When I moved, I finally got rid of it all. But, and again, it was a powerful time for me. I felt like I was able to help people. So that's a gift to me, a gift from community living, because I had two things from pilot parents. I had kinship of other people in the same situation, and I had the ability to focus some of my energies on something that I felt might be relevant, not necessarily to my kid. I don't know that Emily benefited from me being a pilot parent. If anything, probably took time away from her, but it was good for me. So it's a service for me from community living.
So that you talked about when you sort of felt guilty and bad, and it's almost like you were going through a trauma around realizing what Emily wouldn't be, and you felt guilty about that. Was that consistent with what you saw with other parents? And what recommendations or what advice did you have for parents to manage that or deal with that? And your camera just moved as you reached for a Kleenex. So there you go.
I'm sorry about that.
No trouble.
Well, my advice to parents would be to get involved. I represented Community Living Toronto for many years on the Special Education Advisory Committee for the city.
SEAC.
SEAC. And, they're legislated to have people. I was there with the Association for Bright Children and Women. I was there with parents of visually impaired people, learning disability, the Autism Society, Easter Seals, the epilepsy. It's a long list. I don't know what the formula is anymore, but when I was on it, and I was on it for many years, I did heavy duty advocating all the time. That's where I met, shout out to Donna Cansfield, who's now she's now on our Patrons Council. She started off as a lowly little bored housewife who became a trustee in Etobicoke. She came to they gave her SEAC because nobody else wanted it. So she came and didn't know anything about anything. And she asked me if I could help her and talk to her. She invited me to her home. We spent 3 hours talking about Community Living Toronto and what have you. She's been a stalwart advocate for us for many years. Years later, 20-something years later, I called her one time about a kid in my school who didn't have the right kind of desk and computer, who was in the handicap classes. And within 24 hours, that kid had everything she needed.
Wow.
So
Donna's been a great advocate, and with the SEAC, the Special Education Advisory Committees, Tracy O'Regan, we continue to have representation there, and Tracy O'Regan is our current rep, and another member of our Patrons Council, David.
She's
sorry. Yes.
Does she have a child with an intellectual disability? Just saying.
No,
we have a parent in that spot.
It's a good question. It's a good question. And David Leposki, another member of our Patrons Council, was chair of the SEAC for a number of years and tried to bring some important change there, because it is a slow moving entity, and I think the relevance of it kind of comes in and out. But sorry, I interrupted. You were talking about your experience there and how important Donna was. And
you asked me how people, what would I encourage parents to do? Well, advocate at every cocktail party, join SEAC, become a member of Community Living Toronto, give Community Living gift certificate or memberships as gifts to your family members, so they get to read everything and know everything and show up at everything and raise some money for God bless Angela and Sylvia. 2 more shout outs. People are desperate to raise money. Get your families to go to things. Don't ask for presents. Always ask for donations. My sister retired from Bell, and she asked for all of her retirement money from her to go to Community Living Toronto. There's 100 ways your family and your friends can support you, that they don't have to come to meetings. They don't have to join a lot of things, but small bits they'll bite off, and I would just say advocate your brains out, which is what I'm a little bit less, I'm less edgy, just so you know, Brad. I can, bees to honey. I'm not such a fool that I'm always so edgy as I can be. I try really hard to encourage people to get involved. And I mean, not maybe the way I have. I'm currently in my 8th year, my 3-year term on the board. Just saying, it does. It just
Well, you can stay up to 9, so don't sweat it. We'll worry about.
I know. I'm just saying that's how people can get involved, and it can be a small thing like volunteer at your child's school if you have the hours and the time. I worked half-time for many years, and basically I worked half-time so that I could volunteer half-time at my daughter's school, and it ended up being a successful inclusion integration section of her life because of that.
So that's excellent. That's excellent advice. Thanks for sharing that. Now you talk about or maybe you could just talk a little bit about what. So Emily didn't meet necessarily all the milestones that you had in mind early, but then when you recalibrated and realized what your life was going to be like, Emily's had a lot of successes, right? Do you want to talk about what she's doing now in terms of employment, or how that came to be?
Employment's another thank you. Big thank you to Community Living Toronto. I was somewhere once at a meeting, and again, if you attend meetings or you go to things online, you'll hear. I heard about a new program called Youth to Work, Y2W. It was for 17 to 21-year-olds, transitional age youth coming out of the school system. They threw them all out of school at 21. The fact that they learn slowly and they need longer and they need repetition doesn't seem to matter to the Ministry of Education. They just boot them out at 21. Anyway, when I heard about that, I phoned in and I talked to, again, don't know who the intake person was. They put her name on a list and she became eligible for it. Another shout out. God, I could talk about staff all day. Anne-Marie Benetti. God, I love her. Give her a raise. She was Emily's Youth to Work partner. I don't know what you call her, a community living person. She just walked up and down the Queensway. She went into every store and every plaza, cold calls, and found a job for Emily. Before that, she held a circle of support in our home where we invited friends and family, and Emily got to listen to 12 people for 2 hours talk about how wonderful she was. Every strength she had, every wonderful attribute she had. And it was such an empowering night for Emily. I mean, I said to Lauren, if nothing comes of this, if she never gets a job, it'll be a highlight in her life because nobody said what she couldn't do. Everybody there loved her, and in the end, it parlayed into Anne-Marie going out and pounding the pavement and getting her job at Winners. By the way, people shop at Winners. They're very supportive of people with intellectual delays. I mean, does my daughter do the work of somebody else? No, but she gets the same pay. They support her. She's been there 21 years.
Wow.
21 years. They celebrate her every 5 years and thank her for coming to work. And honestly, there was a time when she wasn't straightening the shoes. She was hiding them in the back room. But she had a support worker. It's the truth. She had a support worker for community living for many years, trying to keep her on track so she could hang on to that little job. And the value of work, it is the one thing that outsiders see as valuable. If they saw Emily and didn't know what to talk to her about, and they don't, again, not with malice, they just don't know what to say, they would say, "You still at Winners?" And then she would say, "Yes, I am. I've been there so many years."
I have a poster that keeps turning up in my office, and it's of the two people you mentioned. I've got Emily in the foreground and Anne-Marie Benetti in the background. I think they're doing something with shoes or stocking shelves, but so Emily was part of a big ad campaign that we ran a number of years ago. So I don't know how that poster keeps showing up in my office, but soon after Anne-Marie is around, that poster seems to take a more prominent place in the office. So
I'm so thankful for Community Living for that, because it's weird how people don't ask her about her volunteer work. And her volunteer work was also supported. It came out of that circle of support.
Yeah.
For over 15 years, she worked at a senior's home with support from shout out to Kathy Bachatek. God bless her. She's gone. And shout out to Suzanne Correa, who was also, they were support workers at that senior's home.
Suzanne's still here. Yeah.
She's still here. Yeah. She's somewhere else now. But I want to try to think about staff, because for so many things relating to Emily, if she didn't have CLT support, she wouldn't have gotten her foot in the door, if you understand me. And in our house, service is important. The volunteer work in our house is just as important to us as paid, but it's not to the rest of the dumb world. They all think money's the only thing, you know?
Yeah. We got about a minute or two.
Okay.
So I wanted we had a lights presentation earlier, and you shared some news a little while ago. Do you want to speak about what's next for Emily and for your family?
I will. So over 10 years ago with the Laura Start, shout out to staff, we tried to connect with lights. More recently, during COVID, I took every course offered by the Housing Navigator. The one in our area is Alexandra Shannon. Shout out to her. Took every single free course she offered. Reached out to Frances McNeil. Shout out to her. She's a CLT person who's running around the city and drumming up housing for everybody all the time. And, you know, it's, I don't know when we connected with Mike and Tom. I can't tell you exactly, but I have notes. I could look it up. And they have really helped us in the last little while. I attended, I think, 4 or 5 different networking sessions. Emily's dad came to one, and through the Lights family, I mean, sorry, Brad, but just to put it in perspective, I was told many, many, many years ago by people older than me, put her on the housing list on her 18th birthday. I did, May 4th, 2001. Let me repeat. 22 years ago, I put her on the housing list for a group home or SIL, supported independent living.
Right. Still
waiting for that call. There's nobody calling because the list is now long and it includes everybody. It includes homeless.
Well, and it's based on crisis, right?
Yeah,
so
it's a very
it used to be most
list.
In need. Now it's gotten into crisis. It's unfortunate. So Emily signed up for Lights. Is that?
She signed up for Lights. They helped us. The guys there helped us network with other families. I mean, we did everything. We tried really hard. We advertised at community colleges looking for a support worker, a live-in support worker, a friendly housemate. Advertised on Indeed, which is the old Workopolis or the new Workopolis. We Emily took the How to Be a Good Roommate course. I don't know if it was CLT, Christian Horizons. I can't remember. We advertise on connectability, which for you parents out there listening, go to the CLT website and look at connectability and see if you can hook up with other families. Honestly, didn't get too far there, but we tried. We took.
So what's the plan for her moving? Or what do you want to share around what?
The plan for, I'll share anything. The plan for her moving, and you asked me earlier about why we said we wanted to plan for an awesome ordinary life for her. I actually stole that phrase. A guy named Eric Gall, Goll, Eric Gall, he offers courses online, some free, some for pay. His company's called Empowering Abilities. Look at it, plan for your loved one, get them to be more independent, learn the skills.
Right.
But anyway, so did that, spent passport money on it. It helped, but bigger than that was the all of the help from Mike Adair and Tom Gaspar at Lights currently. I had a couple of people who used to be on the board whose families have benefited from Lights, and they kept encouraging us to try.
Give it a look,
yeah. So recently, now back to Mike. It was Mike Adair, and they offered us something. Like, we also entered all the housing lotteries for the city of Toronto. So we put her on the rent guarantee income list. We did it all, but we were getting nowhere. Then comes Mike Adair and Tom Gaspar. And we are the family that they just talked about, where one young woman and her caregiver live in a 3-bedroom apartment, and the 3rd bedroom became free. And they thought that the young woman, 32-year-old, would be a good roommate for our daughter. Now, I, of course, gave them grief because it's in North York, which is geographically unsuitable. It's a GU. I don't want to live in North York. It means nothing to me. And we didn't want Emily that far away from us. But God bless that Mike Adair. He said, he said, please listen, Laura, please. And I said, okay, what do you want to say? And then he gave me a little drill, and he said, when this doesn't work out for families, it's because of a lack of compatibility. It's not usually finances. It's not geography. And he said,
So the compatibility was key, and you were able to find that
he
match.
asked us
Right.
to change our order of operations and to really consider this girl that they thought would be a good compatible match family. She is also, she's short. She's short, but she's sweet and lovely and kind. And she has so many things. Okay. Also,
Excellent.
The full-time caregiver is already there, already negotiated and figured out and planned with the other family. So that thing that third piece of my puzzle that I've worked so hard to find exists in North York. I can't even tell you what a bonus that was.
North York is a great part of the city. And so Laura, we're out of time.
Okay,
but
good.
This has been a fascinating discussion. You are an inspiration, as is Emily and Lauren, around what you've the example you've set for all of us. And when you shared your news about Emily, I think it was at a board meeting. The smile, I mean, you're often smiling, but the smile on your face, I just felt your joy as you shared that news. It was really, really great. I'm going to give you the last word, but it's got to be a sentence because we're tight. So we've been celebrating belonging as part of our 75th anniversary. In a sentence, to wrap things up, what does belonging mean to you?
I love you, Brad. That's not my sentence. My sentence would be, I would think it would have to be something to do. Okay. It would be that Emily is going to achieve her, oh boy, I can use commas and ands and everything. Oh, yeah. Emily is going to achieve her dreams because of the people from Lights who have helped us, and Community Living who have provided us with all kinds of support. And we are going to be able to transition her while we're alive. So she doesn't have to do this. She doesn't have to be wrenched from her home and all that while she's grieving us. We're going to be able to transition her slowly, thanks in great part to Community Living Toronto. Period.
That's good. More of a paragraph than a sentence, but thank you. There's lots of positive comments in the chat.
A run-on sentence.
Yes. If you were a teacher with a red pen like I've got, you would have made. But fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for sharing and your openness and for everything you've done over the years. Thank you.
Emily, Laura, and Lauren have had an interesting journey together, and I hope that you found their story both inspirational and informative. We will be sharing more of these conversations, and we'd love your feedback. Please leave a comment, rate us where you get your podcasts or on our YouTube channel, and please subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thanks, and see you next time.
Don't forget to join us next time as we unpack the power of community through collaborative initiatives and shared experiences. Available on Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and YouTube. Follow us on social media @CL Toronto. Let's chat, share, and spread those good vibes together. We hope these discussions will inspire you and give new ideas to add your voice to our mission of making our communities and neighborhoods inclusive and welcoming.